from the very beginning, chapter 1. This is the part of the framework that describes the overall philosophy behind the document. Students will explore and discover their identities, gender expression, and sexuality throughout their education, into and beyond their high school years. That's the philosophy of the Department of Education. That's the philosophy they're sharing with teachers. Here's your teaching guidance. Here's the general direction we're moving. We're not promoting gender stereotypes, and we're using gender-neutral language, and you can even encourage the use of kids identifying their pronouns. I mean, kindergartners don't know about pronouns. I have one at home. I can tell you she didn't know the first thing about pronouns. This is a very common tool, and it is also represented in the framework, and this is the genderbread person. And instead of teaching what we used to teach, which was that we need to try and think before we act, or that our emotions should not be running our lives, which causes a huge mess, and we know that as adults, instead we're teaching children that how they feel and who they're attracted to and however they dress really doesn't have anything to do with their sexual organs, and all of these things are in flux all the time. Everything's on a sliding scale, and you should welcome discovering where you are on any of those scales. And here's a quick video by the producer of the genderbread person explaining his theory.
Let's unpack this whole gender conversation. You use a device or a character called the genderbread man.
Person.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. The genderbread person.
It's okay. I found it really helpful to think about gender in a few different distinct categories. Gender identity, how you define your gender and how you see yourself. Gender expression, the different ways that we present or perform gender through our actions, our dress, and our demeanor. And biological sex or anatomical sex, the physical characteristics that make up our body that in many people's minds equal gender, but don't.
So gender expression is the way you present yourself to the world. So you could be talking about the way you dress.
Yeah.
The way you comb your hair.
Or don't.
Or use product.
Yeah.
So everything kind of as it relates to the outside world,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's a perfect way of thinking about it. So even just, okay, so this is funny. The way that I'm sitting right now is a very feminine expression of sitting, because like how we sit is gendered, right?
And meanwhile, I'm kind of man-spreading.
Yeah, you're man-spreading. You're not even giving me enough room to properly man-spread over here. This is the man cross, the masculine way of crossing a leg. This is just uncomfortable for me. Feels like so much.
It feels good to me.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's like yoga. Okay, now let's do the girl.
Okay.
So gender is different than sexual orientation.
Yeah.
But a lot of people get them confused.
Yeah. Gender is who you go to bed as. Sexual orientation is who you go to bed with. So if you haven't heard that one's important.
So let's talk about penises and vaginas, shall we?
Yeah, we might as well.
Let's just go right there.
If you haven't already talked about penises and vaginas, we need to talk about penises and vaginas, because that's what everybody always thinks. Like immediately, as soon as you say gender, anybody who's walking by right now who's hearing us say the word gender, the first thing that's popping into their mind is external genitalia. They're thinking about penises and vaginas.
So, for the purpose of our discussion, the bottom line is your external genitalia does not dictate your gender.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Can you rewind that?
The bottom line is your external genitalia does not dictate your gender.
Yeah. I mean, that I couldn't have said it better.
The funny thing about that video, the more often I see it, I say, who's presenting the gender stereotypes there? Pretty obvious, but. So, again, from the framework, more directives. This is directed to TK, 4-year-olds, to 3rd graders. A book called The Who Are You? Kids' Guide to Gender Identity. Some people say there are only 2 genders, but there are really many genders. Here are a few words we use: trans, genderqueer, non-binary, gender fluid, transgender, gender neutral, agender, neutroi, bigender, third gender, two-spirit. Okay, look, I have a kindergartner. She can hardly spell, like, long vowel words. And we're introducing this college-level vocabulary to children. Why are we confusing them like this? Can you see up there a little board, little school board, and the kids are, I am a boy or a girl or neither or both. This is absolutely just molesting our children's minds. Here's another page from the same book, talking about gender identity. Babies can't talk, so grown-ups make a guess by looking at their bodies. This is a page right from the Department of Education website, just so you know, we're not making this up. They use this as a recommended reading list, so they really want you to use these resources. This is 10,000 Dresses, and if you were to read the description of that book, you would learn that the main character wants to make dresses, but everybody tells him he can't because he's a boy. But he finds an older person who will make dresses with him, and they're all very happy because they make lots of them. This is another book entitled My Princess Boy. Again, this is directed at 4- and 5-year-olds. It's really disturbing because it reads, I love my princess boy, and when we go shopping, he's the happiest when looking at girls' clothes. But when he says he wants to buy a pink bag or a sparkly dress, people laugh at him. They stare at him, and when he buys girl things, they laugh at him, and then they laugh at me, and it hurts us both. This is totally emotionally manipulative. Little kids don't want to be mean, so they're using these books to try and manipulate our children.